Stand by to launch FanStream Sports.
3, 2, 1. Let's start.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to FanStream Sports. Nothing but pure sports. This is the JP Show.
JP, it is so good to hear you back on the air.
Stand by. Now, here's JP.
All right, greetings from Breckenridge, Colorado here, and a beautiful day up here in the mountains. As my good friend Nick Geddes is holding the fort down in our studio there in Tampa. We're going to talk a little Lightning this morning after a big win over the Maple Leafs last night. How about this run by your Tampa Bay Lightning? We'll talk some Rays as well. Not a great home start to the season, and I can't get away from them, Nick. They just chase me wherever I go, and now they're out here in Denver. Going to play it. I tell you this, but the people are very excited about the Rockies out here. I don't know why, but
really?
They're very excited about it. Don't ask me why. I don't know if they have a shot in hell to do anything, but you never know in this crazy game of Major League Baseball. But I do know this: the offense of the Tampa Bay Rays is certainly a concern, and the lack of going out and getting a big bat is showing early in this campaign for the Rays. Good morning to you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well, and you know it's so crazy. Yesterday, I was just sitting around. I was working. Don't get me wrong, but I was still like, okay, I'm going to keep track of the game later tonight. And it took me about to the third inning to realize the Rays were playing in the afternoon yesterday.
Yes.
And then I tuned in, and I was, I don't know if bored's the right word to say. A little bit.
Yeah.
It was a little boring if you tuned in yesterday, especially for the good crowd of 19,000 that was on hand yesterday. And that was the effort you got from the bats, but might see that a lot more often this year out of the Rays. Who knows?
Yeah, and I guess Brandon Lau left the game, and of course, everybody says, "Oh, nothing to worry about here, nothing to worry about," but there's something to worry about. We don't have enough left-handed bats as it is.
Yeah, I know they said that he I guess he wanted to stay in, and Cash was like, "No, I'm gonna yank you out." And Lau says he thinks he could be ready by this weekend. But you know, we've been through this song and dance so many times with other players on this team, and specifically Brandon Lau, and it was just like, oh boy, here we go again. So yeah, it was also interesting too. It's like they don't have any lefties on the roster, and one of them happens to be Shenton, who they're giving a shot. And then when they're facing a righty yesterday, he's not even in the lineup. In fact, he has 5 at-bats all season long. So I don't understand that. What's he doing up here if he's not even going to be able to contribute?
Yeah, that's
given the chance to contribute. Yeah,
that's an issue. That's a problem. I mean, we don't have many left-handed bats as it is. Why wouldn't he? Is it a matchup issue? I'll be brutally honest to the fans out there. I've been enjoying the snow out here. It's absolutely perfect for Florida people. For the experienced skiers, it's a little slushy, but for the Florida people, it's 45 degrees. We're skiing. You got a t-shirt underneath your powder jacket. Today there might be some short skiing going on and t-shirt skiing because it's going to be in the 50s. But there's the snow runs are full.
It was in the 50s this morning a little bit. We got a freaking monsoon come through yesterday.
Oh, I saw that. So we were in the same temperature today?
I walked out this morning and I had to put the heated seat on this morning when I went to the gym. I had to put the heated seat on and the defrosters on in April.
I don't know what's more shocking to hear, that you had to put the heated seat on or you went to the gym this morning.
Okay, hold on.
We're getting in the gym. Wait a minute. No, this is a development that needs to be discussed. We're getting in the gym in the morning.
I haven't even I haven't even said anything about my health journey, but I decided to take my health seriously this year. And
oh my God. Wait, what?
I have lost 17 pounds since the beginning of the year.
Are you kidding me?
I got a gym membership. I lost 17 pounds and I've been eating really good, and I've cut out fast food and all the garbage. So,
oh my God, Lugo will be so proud. How come you haven't been telling us about this? We're just learning about this now.
Journey. I've just been on my little journey, just doing my thing.
Well, the people want to know. The people out there, they're fans of the show. They got to know what's going on in our lives here. Well, not really.
There you go.
They do enjoy. I'm sure a lot of people out there will be like, "Hey, nice job, Nick. 17 pounds. That's nice." But I want to know is like, what did Casey say that got you on the journey? That's what
she threw on. She loves to watch like the health documentaries on Netflix, and
Right.
she threw like 2 on towards the end of last year. And I learned way too much about what happens when certain food goes into your body and what happens and build up and things like that. Freaked me out to
Oh,
death. And then on New Year's, I went to this place called Fat Burger, and like I ate the burger and the fries and completely like just upchucked it that night on New Year's. So I had an awful New Year's, and I was like, I'm tired of feeling like this. And so that was like the light turned on moment, and I decided to get healthy,
that was
and I've been 4 months so far doing well.
that's rock bottom. Yeah, the fast food will definitely kill you. No doubt about that. That'll get you. So just cutting out that alone probably has made a huge difference.
Right.
Wow. Well, Lugo will be very proud. We'll have to get you on the show with him one day, and he'll be very proud of you. I'm sure you've taken to heart many of the things that he said over the past couple of years.
The
Right?
other part of the news is it's ironic. I'm going to see Lugo today, actually.
Are you?
I am going to see Lugo today.
Oh,
Update him on my journey and see if I can get some more tips to see how I can continue this. So there you go.
Oh yeah. I didn't know if you were actually working with him to lose all the weight, but I'm sure he'll certainly.
I'm gonna go today because
I
17 pounds. I feel like I might have overcorrected a little bit, so I'm trying to like now regain some more muscle, kind of. So
yeah. Well, hey, seriously though, even though you're a spry 20, what are you 23 now?
I'm 24, going to be 25 soon.
24. Okay. Is he checking your testosterone level? Did you do your blood work?
I'm going today for the first time to like start the process of doing everything.
All right. Well, good. You'll be surprised that maybe, if you're not getting the results in the gym that you think you should be getting, it might be the reason, because of that fast food will deplete your testosterone. So, all right, you're on the journey. Good to hear. All right. Well, keep us updated. We want to be updated. All right. All right. Let's get into it. We want to go Rays or Lightning first. I think we go Lightning first because the Rays are so boring.
Yeah, we'll touch the Rays eventually. Let's go back to the Lightning. Let's go back to the positives.
Virtuoso performance last night from Kucherov again. Not surprising given the circumstances of him coming back to Toronto, where they booed him lustily at the All-Star game. You knew he had something ready for them, and he went out there and dropped 4 assists last night, 130 points now. He's 3 up on McKinnon, 5 up on McDavid. That's a Lightning record for points in a season, and we still have a few games to go. I doubt that he's going to win the Hart Trophy. We all know, what the reason is. Cooper talked a little bit about it after the game last night. He's not the physical presence that McKinnon and McDavid are. That when those guys get going, they just seem to, dominate the game in a very demonstrative way, right? Whereas Kucherov does it in a very, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. It's just the hidden little things that he does. It's the passing moments, the way he sets up plays, the way he reads the ice. He's just like the ultimate point guard on the ice. And he's not like Shaq, but he's going to put up the numbers like Kobe and be a force in every way. Maybe a comp for him more is like Steph Curry. He's not going to overpower you with any of his physical abilities, but just the way he sees the game, the way he plays the game, the way he puts points on the board, either himself or helping out his team, is just, it's at an elite level, at a hockey level that we haven't seen much. The 130 points, only 5 other players in the last 30 years have done that. And the names: Lemieux, Gretzky. I mean, all the greats. So this, I predicted he would have a 50-goal season. He's not going to get there, but I think the impact that he has had this year, is actually more than a 50-goal season, if that's possible. And and the way the Lightning are playing, and Vasi had another great game last night. He continues to play at an elite level. Oh, that Austin Matthews goal was sick.
Yeah.
That was sick. Right off the faceoff, what a shot! You tip your cap to Austin Matthews, number 63 on the year for him. But that's all they got. That's all they got. And the Lightning continue to play shutdown hockey when they need to play shutdown hockey. And I don't think you can ask for anything else from this hockey team with what they've done the last 11 games. 9-1-1. They're 4 points behind Toronto. They'll play the final game of the season against the Maple Leafs. So they may have a legitimate chance to get to third place. which we never thought was possible.
Right. I mean, they've certainly given me, at least, and I'm sure every Lightning fan out there, renewed hope for what they've done here. And it's because it's against good hockey teams. It's like, yeah, they're beating the teams they should beat for sure. But in this run they've been on, we've talked about it. They've taken down the Rangers. They took down Vegas. They took down I can't even remember some of the other teams. Obviously, they just took down Toronto. Florida, they took down. That's the other one. Boston, they took down. Like, they've taken down some really good teams and some teams that they're going to have to see in the playoffs, by the way. And
yes,
I've been telling you the most notable thing here throughout this whole thing was the emergence of Andrei Vasilevsky. He's back. He's back. I don't care. You can make all your list in the world about what you want. When this guy's on, there ain't nobody in the league better than him. We all know this here in Tampa Bay. I don't understand why people let this slip this year, but he's just been lights out. He was lights out against yesterday in a game where, I don't think the Lightning had their A game necessarily last night.
No, they were very flat. They were
especially
flat
in the first period. They were very, very flat. The power play had no juice whatsoever in that first period, and they were getting chances after chances. And you could tell Kucherov, it's so weird. It's like he had a 3-point night last night, and it's like it feels like Kucherov could have had a 7-point night if he really wanted to. Like, if we want to just get technical, like, there were so many shots that he thought he had and he missed, and he got frustrated. There were some passes and that he had that I thought were really creative, and they just didn't go in the back of the net. So he could have had an even better night, and that just shows you how great he is. But they had their B game last night, and they still walk away with a 4-1 victory in a very tough place to play. And the only thing they lost last night was the fight. And, I'm okay with that. Jeannot I don't know if you saw the fight, JP. Jeannot got handed a little bit by, it was Ryan Reeves versus Tanner Jeannot. Heavyweight. Wow. Although I think Jeannot, compared to Ryan Reeves, Jeannot's a little bit of a light heavyweight. Okay. Ryan Reeves is a little bit of a different weight class. And
true.
Ryan put him on his butt. He did. But that was the only thing the Lightning lost last night, so I'll take it.
Shocking development. That's going to reverberate around the league, I think. Wow. Okay.
Did you see the full line brawl last night in New Jersey and the Rangers? It was open fight night in the NHL yesterday.
What the hell was that?
The last time they played was when Rempe had the headshot to, I forgot his name there on New Jersey, and took him out. And I guess they had this agreement before that, hey, we're just going to drop the gloves and go at it. And Rempe, of course, was involved. Rempe has played the Devils 3 times, by the way. He's been ejected in all 3 games against the Devils.
That was old school hockey. That was I thought the goal. I only saw the highlights of it. I thought the goalies were going to get into it. I thought we were going to have a Bobby the Chief Taylor moment with the goalies meeting at center ice, but we did not. We did not.
Right. And 8 players get ejected right off the dot. I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, if you drop the gloves to start, everybody just gets ejected.
I did not know that. I did not. But the funny part was just like, I'm watching the highlights of it, and the refs are just the refs are moving from one fight to the next, right? It's just like you can't keep up with all of them. They go watch this one, and they're like, okay, now we got to go over. That's just, it was hilarious. Just when they took the wide shot, it looked like slap shot at the Hanson brothers. It was like, here we go. That was freaking hilarious. And at a time when it's time for hockey to take center stage as much as they can, with all that's going on with Caitlin Clark and the NCAA tournament, maybe hockey needed a little bit of boost.
Hey, they made the ESPN's what do you call it? Instagram page finally. They finally made it on there.
Could there be why does the NHL, can they do nothing to get ESPN? ESPN's paying for these rights, and they don't even promote their hockey they should be promoting. It's just bizarre.
I don't know. The NHL's not you can't even call the NHL a major force sport anymore. I don't even think they are. Like, their ratings are just not not great.
Well, it doesn't, it's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, the promotion or the ratings? I still think it's the most entertaining game to watch in sports right now. I mean, other than, an NFL football game that I have a real interest in, or a college football game. This is just for me speaking. I mean, football is king, obviously, but for me, I want to watch my Seminoles. That'll be, if I'm like, okay, what if I'm picking a sports event that I want to watch? For me, it's a big college football game. And then the Masters is probably second if we're going to, some of the one-off events. But hockey is, certainly above the NBA for me, certainly above the Rays. Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the most entertaining games to watch, but it just never has really translated to TV. I think it's in terms of a spectator sport, it's hard to beat the experience at Amalie Arena. I can tell you that. There was a point the other night where they went, I think, almost 9 minutes without a whistle in the hockey game. It was I think it was 7, 8, or 9 minutes without a whistle. I mean, it was just end to end.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't get that in any other sport. I mean, you don't. Of course, there's no timeouts and official timeouts in soccer, so to speak.
And truthfully, like, how like everybody like romanticizes about the summer of '98, right? With what was it, McGuire, Sosa, and Ken Griffey going after the home runs.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's a fair comparison, but like, at least to people who watch hockey and are very in the know of what's going on in the NHL right now, having these three players, McKinnon, Kucherov, and McDavid, is sort of like that to an extent. Obviously, these guys are just racking up points. It's not always goals. Home runs are always going to sell more. But for what these three guys are doing right now, like, you don't see this every year, where you just have three Hall of Fame players just jockeying back and forth every single night. Your scoreboard watching, like, Kucherov put up 3 tonight. Now McKinnon just put up 4. Oh, look, McDavid just put 5 up. Now he's in the lead. Like, and it's going all the way down to the end. Like, to me, that's like, this is like the biggest W for like the NHL. And I wish it was getting more pub nationally outside of just hockey circles.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's a great point you make. I mean, these are record-setting numbers that these guys are reaching here. And then you can even throw in Austin Matthews chasing 70.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree. It should be getting way more. Because look what they're doing. And look, I understand, March Madness. I get it. But ESPN's going to give me 35 minutes of baseball highlights on SportsCenter and nothing of hockey, nothing of the race to the point championship. I mean, come on. That's crazy. They should be focusing on that, and the NHL promo machine should be putting stuff out there like that, like the McGuire and Sosa race. But I haven't seen anything. Have you?
No, that's what I'm saying. I feel like it's such a missed opportunity. I really do.
Yeah,
again,
you're right.
Maybe within internal hockey circles you see it, but again, if you're not like in it, like to the casual fan, I don't know how you would know what's going on and the magnitude of it.
No, I totally agree. All right, let's listen in to John Cooper last night after this, what would have to be a super satisfying win up there in Toronto and continue the playoff run.
Nikita gets the single-season franchise record, 129 points. We're just curious, does he still find ways to surprise you at this point, just given how many?
Are you really curious?
I am curious.
So you guys,
can he find ways?
I get to stand there every night, and I hope other people watch. Like, just how uniquely talented he is. But you can't be that way unless you have an internal drive. And if you watch the way he played that third period and to compete and being on top and doing all those things that probably other players do but don't get as much credit for, it's he's a marvel to watch. And in a big game we needed, he was unreal.
Has there ever been a star who scored more and skated less?
Or Nicholas Lidstrom, maybe. He was the one in the back end in this era that could basically, but Cooch, and the players that do that are the guys that are really smart.
What do you see from Andre? Obviously, he was injured to start. Maybe not this statistical season that he's used to. But what have you seen from the last stretch?
Well, big part of it too. Like Vass may not have the goals against and the save percentage that he is used to, but he's got the wins. And a big part of that early was our fault as a team. We didn't play well enough in front of him. And so he's going through 200 plus days off trying to get his game back, and we didn't have our game. And as our game's rounded in, a big part of it is because we jumped on Vassie's back. And it wasn't, I didn't think it was a night where he had to be unbelievable, but the backdoor save in the second, it's the timeliness of the saves, and that was the big one for us.
How close are you guys to getting back to where you need to be headed to the playoffs?
Ooh, we got to get in there first, but are the Tampa Bay Lightning better in April than they were in October, November, December? We are. Where we're at, I can't sit here and say for sure, but as we look in the mirror right now, we're better than when we started.
I feel like you might not have spent.
You would have had to be in the locker room to hear that one.
Considering the seriousness of the surgery that Vasi had, like how concerned were you that he might not get back to his normal level?
I don't think, you know how that is. You try and block those thoughts out, or I tried to, but he's, you just know his work ethic, the way he looks after himself off the ice, that he was going to come back from this. And so clearly he has. And I think the hardest thing though, it probably wasn't the physical aspect of it. It was the mental aspect of being off for so long and then having to jump back in, and especially jump back in when we weren't clicking on all cylinders. So then everybody's putting all the pressure on him to bail us out. And like I said, our game had to improve first. And Vasi's been, like I said, a big part of that. No, Gino's fine. That was, the one thing about this sport, and there's so much honor in this sport. And I think those two guys are two honest players that have been around this game and stick up for teammates. And it was, I don't know, it was, I think that's what separates us from a lot of other sports is, what two guys like that did for each other's teams.
Good. Maybe 6 teams could win the East, possibly 7 could win the West.
Yeah. That's a hard question to ask. I mean, I guess the one thing is there a team like, what Boston did to the league last year, running away with it? No. Are there tighter races this year than last year? I think, some of the conference, our conference for sure was, 2 months to go. Everybody kind of knew who was in. Tighter races, probably a little bit more parity. And I mean, the powers that be probably like it that way.
Well, there's a lot there from Coop, and I think he answered a lot of questions that a lot of fans were asking. Is Vasi going to return to Vasi form? And I think we were all a little impatient when it came to that. I think on this show we were trying to just tell people, we're still a couple of months from major back surgery. Let's not expect him to come back and be Vezina Vasi right away. Then he got a little bit of a break in that 15 days. They only had 4 games and they stayed at home. And ever since that point, he's really become the Vasi again. He's tracking the puck like he used to. He makes it look so easy. He's always in great position. Last night, I don't know how many 10-bell saves did he make last night? We'll get 7 to 8. I mean, how many great scoring chances did they have? And Matthews was working hard, and he only had 1. And that was, as we mentioned, a hell of a shot. So I'm looking at this from on Twitter from stats, some stat company does the P per 60 points per 60 minutes of asking the question who's the greatest Russian player of all time. You know who sits atop that list at 3.826? Nikita Kucherov. Ahead of Artemi Panarin and Kiprizov, Malkin's at 4, Ovechkin's at 5 at 3.149. So I'm not going to pretend I know exactly what the P/60 is, but I think it means your impact on the ice and scoring.
I think it might be points percentage per 60 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. So, obviously Ovechkin has put up huge numbers and is further along than Kucherov. But if you look at per game numbers of Russian players, Kucherov's at the top.
And I hope history remembers him like that because, I mean, obviously Ovechkin's going to be always remembered for, he might be the all-time goal scorer when the time it's over with. And I think a lot of people think of Pavel Datsyuk in the same vein as, all-time player, loved the guy, was on a dynasty, things like that. Malkin, kind of the same thing. Like, I hope people remember Nikita Kucherov for that. And the fact that he's done it in his own unique style. Like, that's the thing. It's like you said, it's so easy to get like, and of course, you're captivated. When you watch Nathan McKinnon score a goal and he starts from one end of the ice and goes the other way, like it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. And McDavid's the same way. It's like McDavid's the kind of guy where like he has like 80 assists or 90 assists this year and like 30 goals. But it's like, hey, if he wants to, he could score 60 like he did last year. He's just choosing not to, okay? He just finds different ways to get it done. Like, and that's the beauty of him. But Nikita Kucherov, it's like I always compare him to the NBA. Like, I feel like you said Curry. I think he's Jokic. I really do. And even from a personality standpoint, I see it the same way. Where they're both
that's a good comp,
like they're both all about ball, and in this case, he's about puck. And even when he has a great night, like he had a quote yesterday, Nikita Kucherov did actually, and he doesn't speak much. And by the way, that's a big part of I think why he goes so under the radar nationally, and why he's probably not going to win the MVP is because he beats to his own drum, right? He doesn't want to talk to anybody, and that's Nikita. But yesterday he had this this little quote here, and he said, if this is the most confident he's felt in his entire career, and then again, this is 130 points, historic season, he goes, no, I still think I could be a lot better, and a lot of guys in this room can be a lot better, and hopefully we will be better. Like,
I love it.
That's the mentality. That's the mentality. And I told you, I go back to what happened last year at the end where the Lightning had, 3 months of a summer that they typically don't have. And this guy was in the Brandon Iceplex or whatever it was every single day playing hockey with himself. Like he was on a mission. And this year, for most of it, he had to drag this team along. And thankfully, now that we've hit March and April, the rest of the team has decided to show up with him. And he's not having to drag it along anymore, but you still get the outstanding performances like you got last night.
And the numbers are starting to really add up. We look at the P for 60, we just said, and here's most assists by a winger. 88, Kucherov has the record now in the NHL. Who's second? Jaromir Jagr with 87 in the 95-96 season. Kucherov had 87 in the 18-19 season. Huberdeau with 85 in the 21-22 season. Mike Bossy with 83. Jagr with 83 in the 90. So look at the names. Guy Lafleur with 80. But Kucherov has 1, 2, 3 of the top 7 seasons of assists by a winger. I mean, and the numbers that he's piling up right now are, easily Hall of Fame numbers. Right now, if he doesn't play another game, I think he would be certainly a great candidate. Maybe not but he's got 4 or 5 more years left in his prime. There's no telling, how is this, Cooch he doesn't play a heavy game. Obviously he doesn't take a lot of hits. This guy could be really effective, late into his 30s. Sid Crosby type numbers. But the thing is, he's doing it and winning games and winning cups. Right. And imagine, if you will, a Lightning team where you have an MVP in Nikita Kucherov, which you do. Imagine, if you will, a Lightning team where Victor Hedman returns to form. He's second or third in NHL defenseman points this year. Hello, again, having another great shot last night. That was number 14 for him. Goals may get so he's filling it up from his shot. You may get Sergei back. He's been skating. We've seen some video of that. Braden Point has returned to his 50 goal scorer level. So he's playing at a championship level. The rest of the team is coming along. Everybody's starting to find their role. Vasi is playing at his elite level. There's no team in this league that wants to play the Tampa Bay Lightning in the playoffs. No team. They see this coming. And it's to your point, what Coop said, what's going on in the room right now. These guys are going out there right now and they're saying, we're going to walk into Toronto and they're going to play their most desperate game. And it's not even going to be close. It's 4-1. It's not even close. And this is how they've turned it up. They flipped the Lightning switch again. And I'm here for it. I know you are as well. And this is going to be fun. They may crap out in the first round against Boston if they play them. I don't necessarily want to see them playing the Panthers in the first round, but at this point, I'm not even, because of the last two games, we've seen how they match up and it hasn't been good. But I tell you what, get in the playoffs in a playoff series, I'll even take my chances with that. I'd rather it be, second round or down the road, but I don't think the Lightning fear anybody right now, nor should they.
No, they should not either. Those teams, you think these teams want to play the Lightning or do they want to play the Flyers? Do they want to play the Lightning or do you think they want to play the Capitals or the Red Wings or the Islanders?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even, they're not even the same league as those teams.
Yeah. It's we talk all about Kucherov, and he's the straw that stirs the drink. There's no question about that. But Hedman's shot last night, Stamkos. Oh my God. Has Stamkos been playing fantastic since Duclair got here? I mean, the impact that Duclair has had in his own, the points that he's putting up and way he's playing has obviously made a huge difference. But how it has turned the light on for Steven Stamkos. Like, what the hell?
I was told he had this worst month of his career in February, and I was just like, man, he's not giving you really anything right now, especially 5v5. And then I look up and he's got 32 goals suddenly. He's probably going to finish with another 35-goal season quietly by his standards, right? But yeah, he's woken up. That's what I'm saying. It's like it felt like Kucherov had to drag this team along to keep them afloat, and now everybody's come to play. Like, everybody's playing better right now. Even Cirelli. I was dogging Cirelli for not being a great second-line center, and all of a sudden his scoring is tipped up more. Braden Point's having it scored again. He's just been fantastic. So yeah, they're all hitting their stride at the right time, and I know momentum can be overrated sometimes, but I'm really hoping that them kind of turning on that playoff mode early is going to translate.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk some Rays and Bucks. Bucks with a signing of Randy Gregory. Huh, interesting. Once upon a time, we were hoping that they would draft Randy Gregory. He's had his ups and downs. Is this a JPP move? We'll discuss when we come back. We're brought to you by the great folks at the Jeeves Law Group, JEEVES lawgroup.com. They are local, they are trusted, and they get results. Scott Jeeves has an office in downtown Tampa and an office in downtown St. Pete. As we say on this show all the time, keep it local, folks. The Jeeves Law Group, experienced lawyers that know the local landscape, and that's important when you go to trial, folks. So get your free case evaluation. Free case evaluation. If you've been in an accident, the first person to call is the Jeeves Law Group, JEEVES lawgroup.com. Back in 3, live from the slopes of Breckenridge. Stay with us. JP here from my friends at your local Synovus Bank. And I do mean friends, and I do mean local. One of the local managers in Tampa is John Acosta, big fan of the show, and I've known him for over 40 years. He's been in local banking since 1983. You talk about developing relationships. You don't stick around for that long unless you're doing things the right way and have a great reputation. And that's the focus company-wide at Synovus. Big enough to handle any complex international transaction, but small enough to answer the phone when you have an urgent question about your business or personal account. And for personal accounts, they have a very easy app that works great. You can do everything online. And for large or small businesses, you will get that personal touch and services to help build your business, taking your dreams and aspirations from the whiteboard to reality. We can make that happen. Let us show you how. For a Get Acquainted meeting to open a business or personal account, just call John or go to Synovus.com to find out where your local branch is. Everyone knows Italiano Insurance is your go-to for home insurance, but they also have an amazing team that focuses on business insurance. Yes, your business is most likely your biggest asset, so make sure you have the right coverage at the most competitive price. And if you started a side hustle recently, don't forget you need business insurance, because if you get sued in this over-litigious society we live in, you could lose all your personal wealth. So get that business insurance. And for the best customer service, always choose Italiano. My representative, Charity, is amazing. I called her late on a Friday because my insurance was going to lapse. She stayed late until the job was done. You just don't find that anymore. Give them a call, 813-877-7799. That's 813-877-7799. Italiano Insurance. JP here for the Geddes Gordon Real Estate Group and our good friend Jane Geddes. Folks, simply put, there is nobody like Jane. Jane is a former LPGA two-time major championship winner. She was also vice president of talent relations at WWE. She also has a law degree from Stetson. So if Jane can drain a 10-footer to win the U.S. Open and stare down Hulk Hogan in the boardroom, You want Jane on your real estate team to not only negotiate the best deal, but find you the perfect home or investment property. And when you work with the Geddes Gordon Group, you become part of the real estate family and get concierge services that include expertly staging, marketing, and preparing your home for sale. Advice on golf properties. Hey, you might even get some golf tips. Many of their clients become friends long after the sale or purchase is completed. It's all part of the deal. So if you're looking for that perfect home or investment property or try to get top dollar for your home, go with Jane Geddes and the Geddes Gordon Group because there's nobody like Jane. Call 813-485-6808 or go to geddesgordon.kw.com. That's GEDDES Gordon.kw.com or call 813-485-6808.
With over 34 years of producing small and large events, Extravaganza Productions is truly a Tampa treasure when it comes to creating some of the very best events in Tampa and all across the United States. I've worked with them at the Florida Sports Hall of Fame inductions, the Warrior Games, which was an Olympic-sized event spread across all of Tampa Bay. They are the very best, from small meetings to exceptionally large corporate conferences to galas, fundraisers, sporting events, grand openings, whatever you want. Team EPI has an extremely talented staff of designers and show producers that develop extraordinary events fueled by the visions of their clients. You can reach them at their Tampa headquarters at 813-621-4700 or go to extravaganzaproductions.com.
Let's go. Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show, live from the slopes of Breckenridge. A beautiful day out here. There's absolutely nobody on the slopes. So much fun yesterday. No one for us to run into, which was always good. So we'll be hitting the slopes here right after this. Another beautiful day. Going to get up into the 50s and highly. If you're not a skier, sometimes I think people get intimidated by learning. Look, if I can still do it at age 60. You can do it. Get out here and enjoy it. Yeah, I'll tell you this though, it ain't cheap. It ain't as cheap as it used to be, but it is for a Florida boy. I mean, when you go to the top of that mountain here in Breckenridge, which is, I think the top peak is over 13,000 feet. You're above the tree line, and you just look out over the Continental Divide, and there's just the Rockies, the snow-capped Rockies, as far as the eye can see. It's just, you pop your earbuds in and you go down the mountain. It's exhilarating, and it's just it takes a lot to get out here, and you just like, you know what, it's worth it. It's worth every bit of it. So if you've never skied before, of course there's a lot of other things to do out here: snowmobiling, tubing. It's just such beautiful country. I would move out here in a heartbeat.
I've only done the have you done Ober-Gatlinburg before? That's the skiing that I've done before. I don't know if they call that fake skiing or what, but
it's not even close. It's not even close. And I've done some skiing in North Carolina. It was the worst experience I've ever been. The slopes are so crowded. You got knuckleheads in jeans with their hair on fire. Just I don't need to turn. I'll just go straight down the mountain. Right? It was crazy. Maybe that was my one bad experience, and it was many, many years ago. This is probably 25, 30 years ago. And I vowed I would never go back. I would never go. If I can get on a plane and go to the Rockies, why would I ski these small, runs that are super crowded with, crazy people on them when you can come out here?
People are wrecking into each other. And then you have the people that work there that are having to hold people's hands as they go down the mountain, and you're trying to like dodge around them and everything.
Yeah, if that's been your experience and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
And then you're coming down to the bottom. You're coming down to the bottom, and you have to find where your mom and your grandparents are with their freaking cameras so they could get the action shot. This is too much. It is too much.
No, this is so much. They've got it down to a science out here. And by the way, it's not, as I said, it's not cheap, but if you do it the right way, you got to buy a season pass. Even if you're coming out for a week, you got to buy a season pass early in the season. And then it works out to about, for my buddy Greg Nelson, who's be making me breakfast here in a little bit. He's come out twice, and the lift tickets will probably be $50 a day for him because they're unlimited. So the more you come out, the more you get out of it. So it's if you do it the right way, of course, having a condo out here. Our family owns the condo, so we don't have to pay for that. That's a huge expense that we don't have to pay for. So that's nice, but it ain't cheap. But you can find ways to do it in a way that won't crush you. So be smart about it. All right, let's get back to. Do we have to talk about the Rays? Yeah,
we have to.
So,
talk about the Rays.
All right, so 3 and 4, and I haven't watched every game like I normally do, but I watched most of the first series, catching up on the other parts of the series, and against the Rangers, and it looks like exactly what I expected it to be, an offense that is very, very questionable, starting pitching that is anything but locked down. 3 and 4 after your first 7, against 2 very good teams. Let's, make sure we say that, the defending champs and a very talented Toronto team. So, but you look at what the Yankees are doing, and what's going on around the league. You just don't, you look at this Rays team and it's a bunch of, as you like to say, meh. It's a bunch of meh. And, there's, with the payroll at almost $100 million, oh my God. There's no reason to think that they're going to add anything to this team. And I know it's early, and I don't want to make too much out of 7 games, but what we're seeing early on is a boring team. I mean, this team looks boring and not very good offensively. I don't know. I think I said 85 wins. I think that looks about right.
I mean, I kind of said, everybody hangs their hat on that the Rays will figure it out. And again, we're 7 games in. And they faced 2 really good teams that are 3 and 4 and in that stretch, which isn't terrible, obviously, but the lineup is just a little sporadic. It's like one game you kind of get some breakout, and they seem to live and die by the home run just a little bit. Had trouble getting runners even in scoring position, at least yesterday. Like through 7 innings, I think they had a runner get to second once, maybe. And then the 8th inning yesterday just summed it up when they had runners on first and third. With 1 out, and Yandy Diaz. I mean, we love Yandy, right? He's the guy in that lineup, and he swings at the first pitch of David Robertson through to him, and it was a little bit of a hanger, but kind of outside. He was early, and he pops it up to right, 2 outs, and there you go. And Rosario came up after him and couldn't get something going. Like that kind of summed up their day yesterday. And when you look at the lineup, it's like, who do you fear in that lineup?
Nobody.
Do you fear in that line? Well, Yandy Diaz just won the AL batting title, so I think you fear Yandy. Randy, when he's going, you fear him.
Yeah, but he doesn't have – you talk about fear, you got to have power for that. I mean, consistent 30-plus home run power. Yandy doesn't have that, doesn't do it.
Here's my concern, though, because I know Chad Mottola said at the beginning of the year that he believes that of the core 6 hitters that are on this team, okay, he feels like last year wasn't an aberration for them, that they have even more in them. Well, here's my thing. Of those, I mean, Yandy, for what he did, hitting .330 last year was spectacular. And that was obviously a spike in his career at an age 31 season, which you don't see often. But I think we're underestimating what having a Wander Franco in that lineup meant. I mean, Yandy Diaz got to hit right in front of Wander Franco, who got to hit right in front of Randy Arozarena, who got to hit right in front of Isaac Paredes, who got to hit right in front of Josh Lowe, and go on and on and on. Like, these guys had protection in their lineup last year.
That's right.
And I think that played a big role in maybe these guys having career years. Whereas you look at it now, you have Yandy and Randy at the top. Brandon Lau's hitting in that, or Lau's hitting second rather, and then Randy. Brandon Lau, he's going to be streaky all year long. That's going to happen, right? And Isaac, I think he's had some good swings, obviously. But after you get past that top, like Richie Palacios hitting in the 5-hole. And then from there, I mean, it's Rene Pinto. It's Ahmed Rosario. It's just all these other guys who are just kind of unproven, or they've been in the league for a little bit. We kind of know what they're going to do. Like, I don't know. They just don't have enough that strikes fear. And I know they're doing it without Josh Lowe right now, and that's going to help things, hopefully. But I just think in terms of contending for this season, I think their lineup just falls short. The pitching, I'm honestly not as worried about, because out of character, they've walked 30 guys so far this year, which is the 5th most in the majors. That's not like the Rays. I think the bullpen has actually been spotty. The starting rotation, outside of Eflin's 1 bad inning in the first game of the season, and then the bullpen day, I think the starting pitching's been great. Savali just gave you another outstanding outing. He's still
Yeah,
my
he's good.
biggest standout. So the starting Pepio after the 3-run home run settled down pretty well in the game against Texas. So I think the starting pitching's fine. It's just the bullpen's can uncharacteristically not great to start the season, and the hitting is sporadic. I think that's kind of my observation through 7.
Yeah, and don't forget they hope to get Josh Lowe back. I
Correct.
mean, I haven't heard anything lately on that. Have you? I mean, that's a huge piece.
They got to get him back in there, and I know Aranda is kind of part of that. But again, we haven't seen Aranda get the consistent bats yet to say, yeah, he's going to make a difference when he gets back in. We haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, and it was as we said to start the season. This team needs to just play 500 baseball until the second half when the cavalry is coming. Hopefully, Rasmussen and Springs should pitch this year, right? And that would be a huge boost to a starting staff that by that time is probably going to be starting to get a little gassed. So that's great. And then you hope that Lowe comes back, and you hope that Aranda can be the guy that we think he can be. I mean, the Rays are betting on it, right? They feel that they didn't go out and get anybody because they feel their guys are good, and the numbers from last year's regular season were great. It's just, I mean, doesn't that postseason, not this, but the last 2 postseasons, 3 postseasons, doesn't it just like feel like, all right, so who cares about the regular season? Can we score some runs when we get to the postseason? Do we have the horses at the top of the rotation that are going to be good enough to win, against these elite teams? And you look at it on paper and you say, no. But, look at what happened last year. Who was predicting that in Major League Baseball?
What Texas did?
Yeah, Texas won 88 games?
Yeah, Texas had to get in at the end, and then they went on a road. They didn't lose a game on the road, I think, in the playoffs. But again, I compare the 2 teams together. I mean, look at what Texas is trotting out there. I mean, you got Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, Adolis Garcia. Yeah. I mean, even the 2 young guys they have coming up, Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford, Jonah Heim. I mean, that lineup's loaded. That lineup is absolutely loaded, and it has money spent all over it, especially when you combine Semien and Seager. That's $500 million in contracts. Well worth it, by the way. There's a difference there. You look at the way the Yankees have been playing so far. Juan Soto, I was skeptical. Again, it's only 7 games in, but I was skeptic of, not that Juan Soto wasn't going to do his part, but it's like, what about the other guys, that are in that Yankee lineup? But Soto just seems to have revitalized them a little bit.
Yes.
And even the Red Sox.
Well,
so
it goes to what
from the Red Sox lead the entire major leagues in ERA, and that's something that everybody said was their Achilles heel. So
yeah, when you look at these other teams on paper and what they're doing, I mean, the Rays just don't stack up, and your only faith is, they'll figure it out. Well, at some point they're not going to figure it out. That's the way baseball is, and
it feels like this is that year. I told you, look at the rest of the league. Cleveland's playing really well right now. They're like the best team in baseball in the AL at the moment. I mean, there's still a 3-headed monster in the AL West. The Orioles, that team's dangerous still. The AL in general is a murderer's row this year, and I think this is the year where it could bite the Rays.
As Rick so eloquently states, JP, hope is not a winning strategy. It's a money-saving strategy. Exactly. Yeah, and this is the worst nightmare for a Rays team. They've got guys that can do it, but if you get some injuries, they have no depth. And there's not a bunch of different guys that can carry you through this many injuries, unfortunately. So we'll see. They come out here and they'll play the Rockies, and that's an opportunity to win some games on the road.
I mean, I think they get the Rockies and the Angels on a road trip here. So again, I mean, they have a chance to turn this. All of the Angels are now 4-2 all of a sudden. But yeah, against the Rockies, you should take care of business there.
Yeah. All right, let's get to some of our great commenters here. Bucks Rays Bolts, good morning to you. Says, can Tampa Bay Bolts catch Leafs? Think want to pass Leafs, stay in the wild card. I think they can. The way the Leafs are playing, the way the Lightning are playing. Yeah. I mean, at this point, can you see the Lightning losing 3 games of their, what they got, 8 remaining? I think they got eight remaining.
Yeah. Right? And I was trying to see. So if they were to pass Toronto for that 3rd spot, here's the thing: you would have to end up playing Florida in the first round.
Yeah.
Whereas if you stay put right now in that first wild card, I think you play Boston. And I
Right.
know Boston's ahead of Florida, and Florida's scuffling right now, but
They
I'd
are.
much rather face Boston.
Oh, yeah, because Boston is our bitch. As we
So
all know.
I actually, if Toronto wants to stay out in front of us right now, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. John Hill, good morning to you. Check out this. Yukon flight delay to Phoenix took off at 1:33 a.m., landed in Phoenix at 6:12, a delay of 8 hours due to mechanical issues. David Portnoy is crying already. What a Boston bitch. Oh, the Bel Presidente has been all around Tampa Bay doing pizza reviews.
He finished
It's
up
been
his
fun to
pizza
watch.
reviews finally. He finished them up officially.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do maybe next week when I get back. We'll have to do a deep dive into maybe we should follow him around and go to all those different places and do our own pizza reviews, see how they stack up.
I know he refused to give any pizza like an 8 in the 8s at all. He gave like 4 7.9s, I think, and it was like one of them surely had to go to 8-1, but I think it's a geographic thing. He just would not give it an 8-1.
Bucks Rays Bolt says Vasi 2.45 goals against the last 11 games, pretty good. I think it's even lower than that, if I'm not mistaken.
It's just at 2 right now.
Yeah. Because of low ratings, says James, NHL salary cap will always be flat, which means teams can't keep great players they develop. Yeah, I mean, that's where the money comes from. You know, the TV ratings, that's where the bulk of the money comes from. And as far as I know, the NHL hasn't taken a big leap. And I would say this, Nick, at least in my years covering the game, which I've been covering the Lightning for 27 years, I don't think the league has ever been more entertaining than it is now. It has more superstars than it ever has. The product on the ice, I think, is fabulous. Every game seems to be, end-to-end incredible skill. Every team has a couple of players that just wow you. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people romanticize over the 90s because in the early 2000s because of the physicality factor. But I think you're starting to see you get like a taste of it last night, which is like every now and then where it's like, oh, this is old time hockey. But I think in general, I think the people love to see the high flying skill on display.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Lonnie Wilkins says, give me Steve Austin running Rock night 2 of WrestleMania. Can you expound, please, Nick?
Oh, it's a big week, JP. We're 2 days away from night 1 of WrestleMania, and then we have night 2 on Sunday. And essentially, there's all these rumors that John Cena and Stone Cold Steve Austin could be making a little bit of a surprise return on Sunday night in the main event to help out Mr. Rhodes, take down Roman Reigns, because somebody's got to counter The Rock in their family. Who's that going to be? And there's some speculation because it's the 40th WrestleMania. Could be John, and it could be Stone Cold, which would be a spectacle.
That would be epic, would it not?
It would be epic. It would be absolutely epic. Which The Rock, by the way, and Roman, they were on Jimmy Fallon last night. I tuned in to see it. So WrestleMania is going. Cody Rhodes was on First Take yesterday. They're taking over the city. City this week.
It was in Philly?
It's in Philly, but they're doing all this media in New York right now.
Okay. All right. Quickly over to the Bucks. They add Randy Gregory. And by no means is this a JPP move. I don't see this guy doesn't have that kind of juice left in him. But I don't know. You never know how guys can get rejuvenated. I will say this. He is, he has the prototypical length, edge rusher ability, and a good guy to perhaps teach some of these young kids. Now, I'm not up on my Randy Gregory's stats and everything, just to be quite honest. But my feeling is the last few years he's had some moments, right? What do we got here?
I mean, if you look at it from the surface, he's got 22 sacks total for his career, which began in 2015. He's 31 years old.
Is that right? 22 sacks in his career?
He has always been one of these players that has had a lot of hype behind him. Like, I think he was supposed to be a first-round pick in the draft, and then I think he might have had some character issues or legal issues, something I want to say, that knocked him to the second round.
Yeah.
And I think he's had that. I think he's had some issues in the league since he's been there. But he was at Denver last year. I don't think him and Sean Payton got along necessarily. San Francisco picked him up, and he was part of a committee. I think he played a little bit better in San Francisco. Like he had 8 quarterback hits in 12 games, I think, for San Francisco, which isn't a bad ratio in that committee. So, and I think his best season actually came in Dallas. His best 2 seasons came in Dallas, and I'm trying to think, is it George Edwards? Is that the coach?
Yeah, George Edwards, the
outside
now
linebackers
linebackers coach.
Yeah, who is here in Tampa Bay now. So I think that might be kind of the feeling. He has familiarity with George Edwards, and those were his career bests were under him. So I'm sure it's going to be a very low number. I haven't seen the number come out. Obviously, it's 1 year.
Yeah, it's less than $5 million a year. Prove it deal.
It probably gives them flexibility, if anything, because now maybe they feel like, okay, we don't have to push it at edge in round 1 if our guy's not there. That's kind of the way that I view this, because I think they do acknowledge that edge is their number 1 need.
So last year he had 7 pressures and a sack while with the Broncos, and 18 pressures and 2.5 sacks with the 49ers. So he was much more productive when he got to San Francisco. So, and that is a thing. I mean, if you don't get along with the coaching staff, they're not using you in the right way, they fall in love with other players, you get shifted down the line. So we'll see if, for that kind of money, you like bringing in veterans who have a chance to do a little bit of something, but he's not going to have the impact of a JPP. I don't necessarily see that.
No, he never had the track record of a JPP. That's the thing. Randy Gregory has always been a big name, kind of, but I don't think there's been as much substance as there's needed to for his career. Not trying to poo-poo on the signing or anything like that. I think it's solid for what they're looking for, but like I said, I think if anything, I think it's a move that tries to give them some draft flexibility for when they want to address that in the draft.
Yeah, and maybe it gives JTS a fire in his ass and maybe gets him going a little bit. But
I was just say about JTS. I mean, I don't know if you had touched on Todd Bowles' comments from the NFL owners meetings, and the way he described JTS wasn't exactly.
I was like, who are you talking about, bro? Like JPP, not JTS. Like he's one of your chess pieces. Oh. A pawn at best.
But I don't know, but they said that they're going to try to move him around. I think that I think that was him telling you, like, yeah, he's not that guy. He's not that guy that we're going to sit there on the edge and he's going to make stuff happen, snap after snap. That's just not who he is. That's how I interpreted that. And so now they're going to try to just do whatever they can to try to disguise him or move him around, whatever, to get some impact out of him.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I want to see how this develops, because it's only towards the end of the year did we see, and Vita Vea was injured at the end of the year, right? He wasn't playing well. So to have a healthy Vita Vea and Cansey in the middle, right? Because I think Cansey is still, we just scratching the surface with what his ability is. And they like, we hear this Marquise Watts and Jose Ramirez, guys that'll be healthy and more in the rotation and being counted on this year. None of those guys get the juices going. Can they be Shaq Barrett guys that, kind of are late bloomers? We'll see, but I'm not, banking anything on it. I still needs to be that guy in the draft that they go get. And, I feel like it's either going to be first round. I think it's interior line, edge rusher, 1 and 2. I don't think there's any question about that. If Michael Penix falls to them at 26, do they take him? I think that would upset the vibe right now of this team. And obviously it's a big risk, but Baker's 28 years old. It's not like you got to go find his successor right now. You want to pour into him. You want to pour into him and surround him with as many good players as you can.
I would keep pumping resources after resources into that offense. I know the defense needs some work too, but I don't think it's set in stone they don't take a receiver in round 1. I tell you what, the closer we get here, you just see all this smoke kind of talking about receivers in round 1 potentially, and the fact that this could be Chris Godwin's last year. And if you look at it after those two, after Mike and Chris, I mean, what do you have in that room right now where you're like, yeah, I can count on that? So I think they're going to address that early. And I think tight end, I've been saying it, tight end is the most undervalued position in the league. All the great tight ends in this league play for the best teams in the league. I don't think that's a coincidence.
No, it's true. No, you're absolutely right. It's such a swing position, and it helps you on so many levels. Talk about chess pieces on offense, and let's not forget they're screaming at us, right? With the additions of Liam Cohen and the offensive line coach whose name escapes me right now. These guys, Klings. I should know that name off the top of my head, but I don't. Both of these guys know the run game. The run game is going to get fixed, and that to me is huge. If the Bucs have a credible run game where you have to commit resources to stopping them, there were teams last year that said, you know what, we can put 6 in the box. That's all we need to stop their run game. We don't need any more than that, and that makes it tough on the passing game. That makes it really tough on the passing game. So if you can get a credible run game where teams have to really focus on stopping that first, boy, that opens things up for the tight end in Cade Otton. That really opens things up for Chris Godwin in the slot. That opens things up for Mike Evans. It's such a game changer. When you're last in the league in rushing and nobody fears your rushing attack, it's much tougher to put up 4,000 yards passing, which is even more amazing that Baker was able to do that last year. So I think a balanced offense is going to result in, this team going from 21st in scoring to hopefully into the top 12, which is where they should be with the pieces that they have, in my opinion. And a new OC and I think, and all these guys should be getting better and get that off that interior offensive lineman. That'll make a difference as well. So, all right. Nick, you got it from here, boss?
Yes, sir. You have fun out there on the slopes.
Let me move that. You see, I don't know if you can really see that out there, but
a little bit of a glare, but I know your condo backs up right there to the slopes.
Literally skied right into the deck yesterday, off there, and hit the wood of the deck with my skis. That's how sweet it is. So we're steps away from this wonderful white powder. So I'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow, Timmy Ham and John Gerber will be taking over the show, but I'm going to jump on with them in the beginning. So we'll have some fun with it. Nick, you take it the rest of the way. Thank you guys for commenting. I will see you tomorrow. Nick will take you the rest of the way. Hey, it's a great time to buy a house and get a mortgage with American Mortgage Services. Okay, I got your attention now. But JP, rates are at 8%. That's true, but I spoke with our friend Scott Fitzgerald at AMS Tampa, and this is what smart people are doing. Rates peaked at 8% last month, but they've come down, and AMS recently locked some folks in the high 6s. Prices have also stabilized or dropped in some areas. So if you're going to eventually buy, now is the best time to get the house you want. Fitz will get you the best rate out there, shopping it around to dozens of lenders, and when rates come down in a year or so and the frenzy begins again, prices go bananas again, you will already have the pick of the litter. Then he will refinance you and keep costs at nearly zero because that's what they do at AMS Tampa. You're back at 4% in the house you wanted while others fight the frenzy. Be smart. Stay one step ahead. Email Fitz at scott@amstampa.com, scott@amstampa.com, or call 813-294-7595. Scott Fitzgerald, NMLS 386722, American Mortgage Services, 1000 North Ashley Drive, Suite 1020, Tampa, Florida. All right, this is for all you guys who don't want to go to the gym and do 5,000 crunches. At Bay Area Modern Medical Center, you can get on the new True Body machine where you can reduce fat and tone up your muscle. It's like doing 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Define your body as you see fit. True Body offers personalized muscle stimulation that delivers the equivalent of those 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Just get in touch with them at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. Chris Lugo and the team over there will set you up on True Body and get amazing results. Non-invasive with comfortable and little to no pain and zero downtime. You can isolate and target those areas that you want to improve and treat multiple areas simultaneously. It's an amazing machine, so check it out at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. Everyone knows Italiano Insurance is your go-to for home insurance, but they also have an amazing team that focuses on business insurance. Yes, your business is most likely your biggest asset, so make sure you have the right coverage at the most competitive price. And if you started a side hustle recently, don't forget you need business insurance, because if you get sued in this over-litigious society we live in, you could lose all your personal wealth. So get that business insurance. And for the best customer service, always choose Italiano. My representative, Charity, is amazing. I called her late on a Friday because my insurance was going to lapse. She stayed late until the job was done. You just don't find that anymore. Give them a call, 813-877-7799. That's 813-877-7799. Italiano Insurance.
JP here for Extravaganza Productions. You know, I've worked with these pros on so many big and small events. They recently did the Kappa Alpha Psi Grand Reunion, the Tampa RV Show Exhibit. They did the Skills Center opening of Tampa Bay. They can do those small events. They do the biggest of events. So if you were thinking about planning a meeting or special event, call the talented staff at Team EPI. They will give you a free creative meeting if you mention the JP Peterson Show. They will provide you with an exceptional experience. Heck, they'll even show you their huge warehouse with great props. Anything you want. They'll do it on time and on budget. You can reach them at their Tampa headquarters at 813-621-4700 or go to extravaganzaproductions.com. Tell them JP sent you.
Let's go. Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show here on a Thursday. JP is off to go hit the slopes up there in beautiful Breckenridge for the rest of the day, but so glad that he was able to join us for an hour today. So I'm going to take us home here for the rest of the show. And we were just having a conversation about the Bucks. Obviously, we were talking about Randy Gregory, the signing there, and some of the offseason stuff as we continue to get closer and closer to the NFL draft. And I did want to piggyback off that talk because I think we sort of have all acknowledged that the Bucks' number one need is edge rusher. But, you know, there was a move yesterday in the NFL that caught my eye. I think it caught the eye of many. And that was the acquisition that the Houston Texans made. They acquired Stephon Diggs from the Buffalo Bills. A very affordable deal, I guess, if you're Houston. All they had to give up was a 2025 second, I believe, in that deal to get it done. So that's a bargain for a Stephon Diggs, clearly. But I'm paying attention to just the trends around the league, and we all know that it's skewing to these high-powered offenses. And, you know, you look at Houston now, C.J. Stroud, then they acquired Joe Mixon, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz. Like, there's so many weapons there for C.J. Stroud to throw to. You look at what Miami has surrounded Tua with Achane and Mostert, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. He's got all the weapons in the world. If you bring it to the NFC, you see what they gave Goff with Gibbs, Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, David Montgomery. So the Lions are loaded. We all know what the 49ers have. And my point in saying this is, you know, the Buccaneers offense took strides last year under Dave Canales. And obviously he's gone, but they took strides. But let's not forget the fact that this was the 23rd ranked offense in the league. Okay. This wasn't a top 20 offense. This wasn't a top 15 offense. This sure as hell was not a top 10 offense. And as we were just saying there at the end there of that segment, they still were the worst rushing team in the entire league for 2 years in a row. And although Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback and he earned the contract and everything, he's not the caliber of quarterback that's going to outweigh all that to get the Bucks to where they really want to be in that Super Bowl contender. So that's what I'm looking at, is how can the Bucks take the next step to becoming the Super Bowl contender? And I look at the current weapons around the Bucks: Rashad White, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Cade Otton. Is that good enough to get you to that next level? And I think the easy answer to that is no. I think the easy answers to that is no. I think Rashad has shown some things. He hasn't had the greatest blocking in front of him at times. But I would add another running back there with him in the draft at some point later, not early or anything, but I'd add one later. Receiver, though, I'm telling you, I know a lot of people are probably split on this, and they might say, well, we have Mike and Chris. We don't need to address receiver super early. Man, I don't know. You could just look at what the Texans have two very good young receivers in Nico Collins and Tank Dell, and they still went and got Stephon Diggs. You can never have enough weapons. And Mike Evans, for as good as he is going to be 31 years old, right? And Chris Godwin is more who I'm pointed about because this is the last year of Chris's deal. And he's due a pretty good pay raise this year too, by the way, in his last year. And he's going to be he just turned 28 in February. He's coming off a season which I think we all would agree he probably was not involved as much as he probably should have been. And I know they're going to put him in the slot, so we'll see. But Chris has been banged up a lot. I say this all the time. He is an older 28. He plays like a 30-year-old 28, if that makes sense. And that makes a difference. And if he's going to go back in the slot, you figure he's probably going to get more beat up. And of course, he already has the knee injuries to go up with it, right? Serious knee injury. So I don't think Chris is going to be here next year, is my point in saying that. Now that you've paid Baker, I don't think you can pay two receivers north of $20 million a year. I just don't think you can do that. So that's where drafting a receiver high in this draft, I think, comes into play. And I don't put it past the Bucs to address it at 26. I really don't. To me, it's all about, the best player available at the positions that you really need, right? And we already know the receivers in this class. The big three, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, they're probably all going to be top 10 picks. But you look at the receivers that could potentially be there at pick 26. You're talking about Brian Thomas at LSU, who was a little bit of a one-hit wonder, I guess you could say, his last year. He outweighed his production his first two seasons and one season last year at LSU with Jaden Daniels. So we'll see if that translates. But obviously, Keon Coleman's, who all the Florida State folks are obviously very familiar with. Adonai Mitchell's another one. And then you have a bunch of day two guys, whether it's a Malachi Corley, a Ricky Pearsall, Xavier Legette, Roman Wilson. You can go on and on and on. There's so many receivers in this class. And I just think that the Bucs have to start planning for what it's going to look like when Chris Godwin probably is not on this football team. But even for this year, if you want to compete this year, rookie receivers are coming into this league right away nowadays, and they're making an impact, especially the ones that are taken in the higher with higher picks. I mean, obviously Puka Nacua was the exception to that rule, but the transition from the college game to the NFL for rookie receivers seems to be as seamless as it's ever been when you get the right one in the front half of the draft. So I know people might say, well, what about Trey Palmer? It's important to note that Trey Palmer was a 6th-round pick. Not saying there's no hope for him or anything, but Trey, compared to what he did in training camp and preseason and all that, I think his regular season was pretty up and down, and I just don't think you can rely on him as a number 3 guy. That's just me. I don't think you can rely on him as a number 3 guy. In fact, I thought towards the end of last year, I thought David Moore became more of a reliable number 3 guy for this football team. So I don't think he's a number 3, so I think the Bucs should probably draft one. If not at pick 26, I'd probably take one with their next 2nd-round pick, or I think it's 55, I want to say. And I wouldn't think twice about it. You've got to get an explosive offense in here, and you've got to give Baker Mayfield weapons. Now that you've paid the quarterback, now you have to start winning with some younger guys who are going to be on their rookie deals that you don't have to pay. That is life for Patrick Mahomes now. That is now life, and he's obviously excelled at that. That's going to be life now for Josh Allen, now that they've traded Stephon Diggs. And yes, to an extent, that's going to be life for Baker Mayfield now. And the other position that I just got done saying that I think that they need to address is tight end. Cade Otton, perfectly fine tight end, but fine is not exactly what I'm going for. I just mentioned it. The top tight ends in this league, I think there's a correlation here. You look at the tight ends that were in the championship games last year: Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Sam Laporta, George Kittle. Probably 4 of the top 5, 6 tight ends, whatever, in the league. Those might be the 4 best tight ends. I don't know. That were all there in conference championship games, and all the teams that win Super Bowls over the year too. I mean, there's a correlation there as well. Travis Kelce, Rob Gronkowski, Zach Ertz, like all the teams that have won Super Bowls recently have all had these stud tight ends. I think it's a very undervalued position around the league, but to win in this league, you have to have guys who are able to go over the middle of the field and get it done. The Bucs had that with Rob Gronkowski, and you saw how big that was for them. The Pats had that as well when they had Gronk in his prime. The Chiefs have that in abundance with Travis Kelce. The Eagles had it with Ertz. All these teams that are winning Super Bowls typically have that guy. And I just don't think Cade Otton's upside is nearly there. He made a lot of big plays for the Bucs this year, a lot of big moments. That's great. I'm not saying he doesn't have a place on the roster, but I kind of think of him kind of how I thought about Cam Brate, solid player, but in an ideal world, do you want him as your number one tight end? Probably not. So these are two positions that I would personally address within the first 3 rounds. They have 4 picks in that 3rd round right now. I would use 1 on a receiver, and I would use 1 on a tight end. And obviously they got to figure out an edge in there as well. And we'll see what else they were able to do. But I think those are 2 positions that not a lot of people are talking about for the Bucs picking high, that I wouldn't be as surprised if they do that. So let me know in the comments if that's what you think. I mean, again, I'm saying this because I think offense is going to rule this game going forward, moving forward. And if you're excited about the 23rd ranked offense, that's cool. Me personally, I think they could do a lot better. And I think now that they've paid Baker, they've got to be able to now put more weapons around him. So that's why I would put that draft capital there. And then I even mentioned it too, just to touch on the Stephon Diggs deal to Houston. And, I love the move. It's important to note that Stephon Diggs, 9 years in this league, I think the last 6 or 7 or last 6 years, I want to say, have been 1,000-yard seasons. He was an all-pro in Buffalo. But this seemed like it was coming. If you recall last year, he did not show up to, mandatory minicamp last year. And Sean McDermott said he was very concerned about that. So there was already those rumblings there, and there were some interesting sideline moments with Stephon. And, they kept, like they always had to keep assuring us, like, hey, nothing's wrong. It's, we're all good here, but clearly they weren't. And, I had made a comment saying I thought the Bills had missed their window. And I think this kind of confirmed it a little bit. They've had to now get rid of some of their older players, whether that's a Jordan Poyer, a Micah Hyde, and now Stephon Diggs goes out the door. So, Buffalo's going to be one of those interesting teams. Now we're going to really see what Josh Allen's made of, because again, once you get your money as a quarterback, now you got to make it work with guys who are not making nearly as much money. And that's Khalil Shakir. That's Curtis Samuel. I'm sure they're going to draft somebody in the 1st round as well. So that'll be interesting there. And Stephon Diggs as well, I was going to say, his last 13 games last year, this was interesting. His last 13 games last year for the Bills, including the playoffs, he had 0 100-yard games. 0 100-yard games. Stephon Diggs we're talking about here. First 6 games of the season, he had 5. It was like the Stephon Diggs, like one of the best receivers in the league that you had to account for. And for whatever reason, he was not a part of the game plan, or he must have hit the decline button midway through the season. I don't know. But clearly Houston is betting on that. There's still a very, very talented player in there that's been there, done that. And I think it's a smart move for them. They didn't give up much. Like I said, it's a 20-25 second for a player that's done that for his career, 1,000-yard seasons, year in and year out. The Texans are clearly going for it. And when you land, this is the big thing. When you get the quarterback right and you get him on this rookie deal, now you can start going to work with supplying talent around him. And they hit big with Nico Collins. They hit big with Tank Dell. Dalton Schultz was a very savvy signing from Dallas the offseason prior. Now they brought him back. He's another good tight end in this league. DeMeco Ryans is a fantastic head coach. I thought he should have been head coach of the year this season in the NFL for what he did there. And now they bring in Stephon Diggs over. And like I said, you look at their weapons. You throw Joe Mixon in there. Houston's ready to contend. And I love this. Don't wait around. You got about a 5-year window of where you can get the max roster building together. Like Cincinnati is kind of getting close to the end of that window. You see now where T. Higgins potentially might be traded, right? but you're only in year 2 now with CJ Stroud. So you have all the time in the world here, the next 4 or 5 years, to really build this roster up. And, another big signing, they signed Danielle Hunter in free agency, 16 and a half sacks last season, one of the best defensive ends in the entire league. I think that was a great signing for them. So they're going for it. So I love the deal from that standpoint. CJ Stroud to Stephon Diggs. If there's anything that's going to get more out of Stephon, I think this is going to be it. I'm sure that's going to be a great connection and everything they put together. So the AFC gets stronger, still waiting on the NFC to step up. The NFC still, you look at it before we even hit the draft, we'll see what happens. But San Francisco, I would say, is probably they still probably got a year or two in this window, I would say, before, then when it gets time to having to pay Brock Purdy, things are going to be interesting. So they still got a year or two in this window. I think they're still the class of the league. Philly told you that they're going to go all back in when they sign Saquon, so we'll see what happens there. Detroit's going to be around. The Rams, as long as Stafford continues to play, are going to be around. But in general, the AFC just continues to add so much firepower. And clearly because they're all trying to take down the Chiefs and Mahomes and Kelsey and Reed and all those guys. And as long as they're playing, they're the class of that conference, but they're doing everything they can over there. So that's my thoughts there. My thoughts sort of there is Buffalo's going to be one of the most interesting teams this year, and we're going to see what Josh Allen's really made of. And Houston, A+, in my opinion, for their offseason to truly go for it with a quarterback on their rookie deal who is coming off an outstanding season. All right, I'm going to take a break here. When we come back, I'm going to dive back a little bit into the Rays. I have some audio I was going to play from Kevin Cash, kind of recapping this 3-game set against Texas and looking ahead to what's going on ahead in Colorado and some other news and notes. On Saturday, we got 2 Final 4 games in the men's basketball tournament. We got the final numbers out for the ratings for Caitlin Clark and Ellis in Iowa versus LSU. Some very interesting stuff there as well. So back in 3, stay with us here on a Thursday edition of the JP Peterson Show.
JP here for my friends at your local Synovus Bank. And I do mean friends, and I do mean local. One of the local managers in Tampa is John Acosta, big fan of the show, and I've known him for over 40 years. He's been in local banking since 1983. You talk about developing relationships. You don't stick around for that long unless you're doing things the right way and have a great reputation. And that's the focus company-wide at Synovus. Big enough to handle any complex international transaction, but small enough to answer the phone when you have an urgent question about your business or personal account. And for personal accounts, they have a very easy app that works great. You can do everything online. And for large or small businesses, you will get that personal touch and services to help build your business, taking your dreams and aspirations from the whiteboard to reality. We can make that happen. Let us show you how. For a get-acquainted meeting to open a business or personal account, just call John or go to synovus.com to find out where your local branch is. All right, this is for all you guys who don't want to go to the gym and do 5,000 crunches. At Bay Area Modern Medical Center, you can get on the new True Body machine where you can reduce fat and tone up your muscle. It's like doing 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Define your body as you see fit. True Body offers personalized muscle stimulation that delivers the equivalent of those 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Just get in touch with them at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. Chris Lugo and the team over there will set you up on True Body and get amazing results. Non-invasive with comfortable and little to no pain and zero downtime. You can isolate and target those areas that you want to improve and treat multiple areas simultaneously. It's an amazing machine, so check it out at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. Is getting a home equity line a good idea right now with rates so high? Well, I put that question to my good friend Scott Fitzgerald at American Mortgage Services, and he says it all depends on where you're at financially. Many of us with ridiculous inflation have been charging up those credit cards, right? At 29% interest, hoping to catch up, but that ain't happening. Those interest payments are killing you. So yes, a consolidation loan and tapping into that crazy equity in your house is a great idea. That strategy can drop your monthly nut by thousands of dollars and stop wasting money on those interest payments. Fitz, the mortgage guy, has done thousands of loans for the past 25 years in Tampa Bay. Just did one for a former colleague who was a manager for a big bank mortgage division. He knows Scott is an independent broker and can get him a way better deal than at his own big bank. AMS Tampa has way lower overhead and gives you the savings. So if you're worried about fees and closing costs, have the free consultation with Scott and look at the actual numbers. It may shock you what he can do. Be smart. Stay one step ahead. Email Fitz at scott@amstampa.com, scott@amstampa, or call 813-294-7595. Scott Fitzgerald, MLS 386722. American Mortgage Services, 1000 North Ashley Drive, Suite 1020, Hempstead.
With over 34 years of producing small and large events, Extravaganza Productions is truly a Tampa treasure when it comes to creating some of the very best events in Tampa and all across the United States. I've worked with them at the Florida Sports Hall of Fame inductions, the Warrior Games, which was an Olympic-sized event spread across all of Tampa Bay. They are the very best, from small meetings to exceptionally large corporate conferences to galas, fundraisers, sporting events, grand openings, whatever you want. Team EPI has an extremely talented staff of designers and show producers that develop extraordinary events fueled by the visions of their clients. You can reach them at their Tampa headquarters at 813-621-4700 or go to extravaganzaproductions.com.
Let's go. Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show here on a Thursday. I wanted to get into this story. I didn't mention it there, but I saw this morning, and I find this very fascinating. So obviously, I'm in the media business, so I always keep, tabs on this stuff. And there was a report this morning I found pretty interesting from Andrew Marchand at The Athletic, who does a really good job of covering a lot of media stories for them. And he reported this morning that the NFL Network has decided to do what would, I guess we describe them as typical budget cuts and layoffs. And some of the significant on-air talent and reporters have been let go this morning. Melissa Stark, Andrew Siciliano, James Palmer, and Will Selva. Those four are all out of NFL Network. And there was a statement here from the NFL Network spokesperson, Alex Reithmiller. As is normal course of business this time of year, we are evaluating our talent roster for the upcoming 2024 season and beyond. That process results in renewals, non-renewals, and additions to our talent lineup depending on programming needs. To those departing talent, we give our sincere thanks and appreciation for their hard work and contributions to NFL media, end quote. And all four of those names, very recognizable. We've seen them on the network for years. And in very prominent roles, by the way. So that's why I was really taken back by this. And I guess my rebuttal to this is it's no secret that the NFL is making more money than most entities in the entire world, right? I mean, it continues. Look at the salary cap increase because of how much money they're making. They're not struggling to earn a dollar at all. So it just kind of interesting the timing here that all of a sudden four pretty big personalities on air are just let go. Obviously ahead of the draft as well. And also the fact that they kind of, normal course of business is what they describe it as, laying off people. Again, interesting wording there. But the reason why I find this so fascinating is what the hell's going on in NFL Network and NFL media? Because if you've been following the other story, Good Morning Football is off the air. And more so than that, Good Morning Football is moving from their New York studios to their LA studios, which is a very, very, again, interesting move. One that on the surface doesn't make a lot of sense. And, Good Morning Football is one of those shows, during NFL season, I pretty much would get up in the morning and watch it every single day. They give you some real substance to the games that you've watched throughout the week, but they also make it fun and entertaining and very unique. And I think Kyle Brandt is one of the biggest stars in sports media nowadays. I really believe that. And Jamie Erdahl does a fantastic job as the host, and Jason McCourty and Peter Schrager. I think it's a great crew, and I think everybody pretty much will tell you it's the best morning sports show or daytime sports show, whatever you want to call it, that's out there. And now it's like there's so much like in flux right now, and it seems like even they don't really know what's going on or who's going to be a part of the show next year. It's just really interesting of why we have something that seems like is a fit and everybody loves it. And now we're kind of looks like we're blowing it up and we're moving it across the country. And think about it from a livelihood standpoint too. To those who are all involved in that show. That show starts at 7 in the morning. Okay. 7 in the morning on the East Coast, which is like, it's early enough. And now they're moving to the West Coast. So it's like, are we starting this show still at 7 in the morning on the East Coast? So now they got to be ready to roll at 4 in the morning. Like, is that what they're doing? Who knows? There's so many questions to be answered there, but it's just interesting that at this time of the year, especially, where we're kind of in the fringe part of free agency, and then the NFL draft is heating up, and then the summer and training camp, that their best show is going to be off the air, the NFL Network. And again, this is the NFL whose revenue is like astronomically high right now, and they seem to be having issues over there for whatever reason. So can't really figure that out, but I hate to obviously see folks getting laid off. So obviously our best wishes go out for them. They're all very talented people, so they'll land on their feet. But again, just very, very interesting what's going on over there with the NFL Network. Anyway, so I wanted to get that out there. So I shift back to the Rays a little bit. 3 and 4 through 7 games. Me and JP kind of touched on it a little bit. And, try not to overreact to what you've seen throughout 7 games. Because remember, this was the same team that went 13-0 to start last season. And maybe we overreacted at that as well. But the schedule's going to lighten up a little bit. I know they're going out on the road, and sometimes these West Coast trips can be a little wonky. But that being said, a 3-game set against the Colorado Rockies, who, for my money, are outside of the Oakland A's, are probably the worst team in baseball. And then after that, you go directly to Anaheim to face the Angels for 3. And I know the Angels are 4-2. They just swept the Marlins, who happen to be 0-7 right now. So I don't really think the Angels are for real by any means. So that the schedule is going to favor them to at least get some of these wins back. But again, like we said in the offseason, I just think this is the year where their margin of error is pretty slim. I think that would be fair to say. And, given the way their bullpen has performed too, I heard all the talk going in, and Kevin Cash said it. Kyle Snyder might have said it too. They felt like this was going to be the best bullpen that they've assembled to this point of any team that they've had. And that's a really big thing to say, because we've obviously seen the stable of arms that this team has had. I mean, they made t-shirts. We all wore them, right? But you look at it so far to start, Garrett Clevenger, who didn't really give the Rays a chance, I guess, in that 9th inning yesterday to try to get that tying run or game-winning run potentially. He ended up giving 3 runs up there in that last inning. His ERA is almost 7. Sean Armstrong is at 6.23 ERA. Alexander's a 9. Poche is a 6.75. Waguespack is at an 18. He only had 1 game, obviously. Phil Maton 7.71. Yeah, it's just not been the bullpen's finest hour for these first 7 games. I think that's pretty fair to say. And they're just walking too many guys. And the Rays never. Garrett Clevenger in 3 games has walked 4 guys. Waguespack, he walked 4 guys in 1 game. Armstrong's walked 3. Maton has walked 3, and he hit 3 hitters too the other day. His command was pretty shoddy there in that game against Texas. So again, the Rays, in my opinion, that stuff will figure itself out. It's all going to be about what they can do in that lineup. And for the reasons that I stated earlier, I just don't see enough guys that you fear in that lineup at the moment. I really don't. And I think asking Yandy Diaz to replicate a season which he hit 330 and had a career high in home runs with 22, I believe it was, I think that's pretty ambitious. Randy Arozarena, for as exciting of a player as he is, he's been a little streaky. Now, I think Randy's locked in to start the season. All his biggest hits and his home runs, obviously, have gone to the other side of the field. So I think that's a pretty good sign that he's locked in right now. But again, outside of those two guys, and then Isak Paredes as well, who I think's had some good at bats. He's had like 5 or 6 home runs that have gone foul already this year. It happened a lot last year. He's just always out in front of the baseball, and we know he's not hitting anything to center, and he's not hitting the right. He's got 56 or 55 career home runs, and every single one of them has gone to left field. It is astonishing. But outside of those 3 players, though, I don't know who you fear. I don't know who you fear in that lineup. And I know they're doing without Josh Lowe, and maybe you can add him into that crew. But we'll see how the season progresses. If they're able to string together some wins here in the next couple of months, and we'll see where they're at then. And then we're way too far out to see what other upgrades they can put to this roster. We know the cavalry of arms is going to come here eventually. And they'll have some pretty big decisions to make, especially if the rotation, because again, I think Eflin, outside of the 1 inning that got away from him in that first game against Toronto, I think Eflin's stuff has been really good. I think Aaron Savali, if I had to tell you who's the MVP of the team so far through 7 games, if that's a thing, I'd tell you it's Aaron Savali. And he looks like the pitcher that they decided to offload Kyle Manzardo for, which was a big deal at the time last year for the Rays to do that. So he's been fantastic. I thought Pepio settled down well after the 3-run home run. The command still was a little all over the place, but he was probably amped up, and he's facing a really good lineup. So I think he'll be better his second time out here in this series against Colorado. The opener thing is going to be interesting. I think you're probably hoping to just get Taj back at this point. I mean, Shane Baz, it sounds like he has an oblique, so he had a setback. We'll see what happens there. So they're going to have to make that opener work probably until they get Taj back. And then the cavalry will come later. So, yeah, at this moment in time, though, like I said, it's going to be what the bats can do. And through the first 7 games, they just kind of look pretty meh right now. I think that is fair to say. All right, we'll take another break here, and then we'll come back. We'll wrap things up a little bit. Going to look ahead a little bit to the Final Four this weekend in the men's. And obviously the women's tournament, which is heating up. We just came off incredible basketball game on Monday between Iowa and LSU. And now we're going to get another one coming up here soon between Iowa and UConn. So that's going to be great. We'll look towards all that when we come back here on a Thursday edition of the JP Peterson Show. Once again, we're brought to you by the Gettys Gordon Group, American Mortgage Services, Synovus Bank, Extravaganza Productions Incorporated. Back in 3. Stay with us.
JP here for the Jeeves Law Group and my man Scott Jeeves. If you're going to hire an attorney, do you want some guy looking for a quick settlement and a quick buck, or do you want an attorney with some chops? Scott is a board-certified civil trial lawyer and a certified circuit court mediator. Been practicing in the Tampa Bay area for over 30 years. He is a peer-reviewed AV preeminent-rated civil trial lawyer. They just don't hand out those classifications. He's been the lead class action counsel on many complex consumer protection cases and has handled hundreds of serious personal injury cases. He's dedicated his career to protecting injured victims and is committed to vigorously representing you. We're local, we're trusted, and we get results. Personal injury and personal attention. Call for a free case evaluation. That's 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES. The Jeeves Law Group. JP here for the Gettys Gordon Real Estate Group and our good friend Jane Gettys. Folks, simply put, there is nobody like Jane. Jane is a former LPGA 2-time major championship winner. She was also vice president of talent relations at WWE. She also has a law degree from Stetson. So if Jane can drain a 10-footer to win the U.S. Open and stare down Hulk Hogan in the boardroom, you want Jane on your real estate team to not only negotiate the best deal, but find you the perfect home or investment property. And when you work with the Gettys Gordon Group, you become part of the real estate family and get concierge services that include expertly staging, marketing, and preparing your home for sale. Advice on golf properties. Hey, you might even get some golf tips. Many of their clients become friends long after the sale or purchase is completed. It's all part of the deal. So if you're looking for that perfect home or investment property or trying to get top dollar for your home, go with Jane Gettys and the Gettys Gordon Group, because there's nobody like Jane. Call 813-485-6808 or go to gettysgordon.kw.com. That's GEDDES Gordon.kw.com, or call 813-485-6808. Everyone knows Italiano Insurance is your go-to for home insurance, but they also have an amazing team that focuses on business insurance. Yes, your business is most likely your biggest asset, so make sure you have the right coverage at the most competitive price. And if you started a side hustle recently, don't forget you need business insurance, because if you get sued in this over-litigious society we live in, you could lose all your personal wealth. So get that business insurance. And for the best customer service, always choose Italiano. My representative, Charity, is amazing. I called her late on a Friday because my insurance was going to lapse. She stayed late until the job was done. You just don't find that anymore. Give them a call, 813-877-7799. That's 813-877-7799. Italiano Insurance.
Let's go. Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show. Nick Geddes riding solo here to close this one out. JP is probably somewhere on a slope right now, having a great time. So best wishes to him, obviously. But again, if you missed it, the first hour, JP joined us. We went over last night's big Lightning win over Toronto, getting it done 4-1 on the road. Nikita Kucherov with 3 assists, 3 more points to add to his total. He's up to 130 already. Andre Vasilevsky continues to round back into form as the playoffs come up, so that was great. And then obviously the big signing for the Bucks, Randy Gregory, and of course the Rays, as I just touched on again there a little bit. So this weekend, obviously, we're going to see 2 pretty big events in basketball, and not the NBA, but in men's and women's college basketball, the Final Fours starting tomorrow with the women's tournament, which has become the more preeminent tournament, I would probably have to say, at least when Caitlin Clark is playing for Iowa. And that game on Monday night against LSU, Iowa was able to stretch out that lead a little bit, and it might have taken some of there was no like end of game dramatics or anything like that, but that game still lived up to the billing for what it was. It seemed like we were all very invested in that one, and obviously the rating showed 12.3 million viewers for Iowa and LSU on Monday night on ESPN, and that was on cable television, obviously. So that was one of the most viewed games of any sport in the past year, other than the NFL, obviously. It beat all but one of 5 games in last year's NBA Finals, and beat the clinching game in last year's World Series as well. So that is impact right there. And, Caitlin Clark, there's been a lot of great female athletes who have come along through the years, and so many different sports. But I personally, in my time here, I just haven't seen anybody that's had a way of captivating people and keeping someone's interest than a Caitlin Clark. I don't know what it is, because she's certainly not the first outstanding female basketball player out there. Obviously, she has a very unique skill set, but she's taken the sports world by storm. She really has, and it really has been almost single-handedly. And this is not meant to be a backhanded comment towards the rest of Iowa, but like, if you were to ask most of the fans watching, like, who else plays for Iowa, it's like you probably would draw a blank unless you're following it like very hardcore. But we all know who Caitlin Clark is. We're all paying attention and what she does and how she makes her teammates better, and the way that she showed up in that game against LSU. And again, for the game to draw that many viewers, this wasn't a Final Four game. This wasn't a national championship game. This was the Elite 8. Like, that makes it, to me, even more astonishing and shows off her star power. And I'm telling you, she's going to go to the WNBA next year. And I'm going to be very curious, or at least in all likelihood, I would assume she is. Angel Reese is going off to the WNBA as well. But assuming that she goes off to the WNBA, if the WNBA has any hope of getting into the mainstream to a certain level, more so than it is right now, it's going to be riding on the shoulders of Caitlin Clark. And that this is going to be a big case study, is how many people are going to follow Caitlin Clark over to the WNBA. But clearly she has still business to attend to in the college game. I don't worry about the money aspect of it. The money's going to be there for her. The endorsements that she has, they're going to follow her to the pro game. Okay. So I don't think it's really a big deal from an economical standpoint. I know some people think that she'll make more money staying in college. I don't know about that. I think the endorsements will follow her and she'll be just fine personally. So we'll see what happens there. But big matchup tomorrow night, 9:30 in prime time against UConn. And this is a very good matchup here as well. And it should not be underscored that while Caitlin Clark is the star of women's college basketball and she's the star of this tournament, Paige Beckers is probably right there with her. And she's not getting nearly the amount of pub necessarily of a Caitlin Clark, but Paige Beckers, I think a lot of people forget that weren't really watching women's college or paying more attention to it, I should say, the last few years. She was supposed to be that next big player to come out of UConn. In her freshman year, she was. And then she got hurt her sophomore year, and she's been out. She was out all of last season. You really haven't seen her play in a while. You kind of forgot about her, but she came back this year and she had a fantastic year. And so far in the tournament, she's been every bit as good as Caitlin Clark has and for this UConn team, how important she's been to get to the Final Four. So we had Angela Reese versus Caitlin Clark. That was the big storyline for LSU and Iowa. And now we got Paige Beckers versus Caitlin Clark. And I think this one is every bit as big as the first matchup. So I'm definitely going to be tuned into that one to see how that goes down. Either UConn's going to go to the championship game for the 20th something time. I don't even know. I know UConn women's basketball is dominated for years. So it'll probably be that, or it's going to be Caitlin Clark. I know what the TV ratings want, because if Caitlin Clark and Iowa are playing in a national championship game, I think there's a good chance it even upseats what they did in the Elite Eight from a viewership standpoint. So that's going to be fun. And then on the men's side, those games are on Saturday. NC State versus Purdue. That one's going to be a 6:00 start time. And then the nightcap, Alabama and UConn at 8:50. So a little bit of a later start time there. I said this on Monday. Unless you have a rooting interest in Purdue, Alabama, and UConn, you went to those schools or you're just a fan of those schools, I don't have any idea how in the world you're not rooting for this NC State basketball team. I really don't. Like this, when it comes to March Madness, when it comes to the NCAA basketball tournament, usually we're rooting for the big story. And, I think this tournament at times has lacked these big emotional moments this year. Like, in recent years, we've had some teams like, the Loyola team that went all the way to the Final Four, right? Remember the St. Peter's team that went to the Elite Eight? Like, we romanticized over that, but we haven't really had that. It seems like the big dogs have really pushed back this tournament, but there's the one team, the one little engine that could, in NC State, who, I got to admit, I thought Kevin Keats might have been in trouble with his job if they didn't get into the tournament this year. I really thought that, and they responded by winning the ACC tournament, beating North Carolina in the championship game to even get in. They stole some bids from some teams that were going to get in, clearly. And then they go on that run where they win 7 games in 12 days, and they've just kept it going. And what they did to Duke on Easter Sunday, they just stifled them everywhere. Duke's offense couldn't create anything against NC State. And this DJ Burns, man, it's like, this is why you love this tournament. It just creates these legends and these names that we'll never forget. We'll never forget DJ Burns. I don't know what's going to happen to DJ Burns after this year. I have no idea. I know there's all these rumors that, put him on an NFL offensive line, right? And he looks like he would fit. I have no idea. What I do know is this guy has become one of the biggest stories of sports in America. And how about this? And this was a report that we had over at On3. He's had agreements with Adidas, Barstool Sports, CVS, DAPS, Manscaped, Raising Cane's, and Intuit TurboTax since the tournament has begun. In a 3-week span, this man has wrapped up all those sponsorship agreements right there. Like, it's crazy. And then our On3's Pete Nakos said that he asked DJ Burns' agents if he made $500,000 in the last few weeks. They said that number was just a little bit under. I mean, think about that. That is what this tournament is. It's been life-changing for DJ Burns, and it's been a fun ride to watch. And it's going to be very interesting to see him go up against Zach Edey. That's the matchup of the entire weekend for both games, is Zach Edey versus DJ Burns. So definitely going to be on the lookout for that. And then the UConn-Alabama game, I think you kind of heard it. There was a comment here, and I saw this, that their plane had mechanical issues last night. Essentially, they didn't get in until, or they didn't take off, I think, till like 1:45 in the morning, I want to say, for Phoenix. So clearly they're a little bit behind the 8 ball there. But if anything, that probably is just going to piss UConn off, to be honest with you. So I don't think that's going to play a role whatsoever. This UConn team all year long has been the best in college basketball. And that's why so many people have picked them, including I did, to win back-to-back national championships, which is something that nobody has done since those Florida teams under Billy Donovan. That's how hard it is to do. But the way UConn has just put teams away with ease. I mean, what they did to Illinois, I mean, they were up by 30 on a really, really good Illinois team, a 3-seed Illinois team. They were up by 30 on them. Like, that is what they just do to teams. They just put you away quick. I mean, they have so much depth. They have 2 guys who I believe are going to be lottery picks this year as well, in a weaker NBA draft, clearly. But still, Alabama is one of the teams that I think has a very explosive offense. They can score with just about anybody. So I think this has a chance to turn into a shootout. But eventually I think UConn's going to get them. So I think I'm rooting for UConn and NC State. That matchup there, you would get the underdog in an NC State versus the powerhouse in UConn. I think I like that kind of juxtaposition, that matchup, if you will, for an NCAA national championship title game, which I believe would be on Monday then. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So a lot of good things to look at this weekend. Of course, you know if you've been listening to this show, you've been following me on Twitter, you know where my loyalties lie this week. I'll be all in on WrestleMania. I already saw Lonnie was commenting about it. That's going to be big for me as well. So big sports weekend. We got to take one more final break, and we'll set the stage for some of these other events and kind of recount some of the things we've talked about today. Check for any breaking news and things like that. We will be back in 3 here on a Thursday edition of the JP Peterson Show. Again, Nick Yetty's riding solo here as JP takes on the slopes.
JP here for my friends at your local Synovus Bank. And I do mean friends, and I do mean local. One of the local managers in Tampa is John Acosta, big fan of the show, and I've known him for over 40 years. He's been in local banking since 1983. You talk about developing relationships. You don't stick around for that long unless you're doing things the right way and have a great reputation. And that's the focus company-wide at Synovus. Big enough to handle any complex international transaction, but small enough to answer the phone when you have an urgent question about your business or personal account. And for personal accounts, they have a very easy app that works great. You can do everything online. And for large or small businesses, you will get that personal touch and services to help build your business, taking your dreams and aspirations from the whiteboard to reality. We can make that happen. Let us show you how. For a get-acquainted meeting to open a business or personal account, just call John or go to synovus.com to find out where your local branch is. Everyone knows Italiano Insurance is your go-to for home insurance, but they also have an amazing team that focuses on business insurance. Yes, your business is most likely your biggest asset, so make sure you have the right coverage at the most competitive price. And if you started a side hustle recently, don't forget you need business insurance, because if you get sued in this over-litigious society we live in, you could lose all your personal wealth. So get that business insurance. And for the best customer service, always choose Italiano. My representative, Charity, is amazing. I called her late on a Friday because my insurance was going to lapse. She stayed late until the job was done. You just don't find that anymore. Give them a call, 813-877-7799. That's 813-877-7799. Italiano Insurance. JP here for the Geddes Gordon Real Estate Group and our good friend Jane Geddes. Folks, simply put, there is nobody like Jane. Jane is a former LPGA two-time major championship winner. She was also vice president of talent relations at WWE. She also has a law degree from Stetson. So if Jane can drain a 10-footer to win the U.S. Open and stare down Hulk Hogan in the boardroom, you want Jane on your real estate team to not only negotiate the best deal, but find you the perfect home or investment property. And when you work with the Geddes Gordon Group, you become part of the real estate family and get concierge services that include expertly staging, marketing, and preparing your home for sale. Advice on golf properties. Hey, you might even get some golf tips. Many of their clients become friends long after the sale or purchase is completed. It's all part of the deal. So if you're looking for that perfect home or investment property or try to get top dollar for your home, go with Jane Geddes and the Geddes Gordon Group because there's nobody like Jane. Call 813-485-6808 or go to geddesgordon.kw.com. That's GEDDES Gordon.kw.com. or call 813-485-6808.
With over 34 years of producing small and large events, Extravaganza Productions is truly a Tampa treasure when it comes to creating some of the very best events in Tampa and all across the United States. I've worked with them at the Florida Sports Hall of Fame inductions, the Warrior Games, which was an Olympic-sized event spread across all of Tampa Bay. They are the very best, from small meetings to exceptionally large corporate conferences to galas, fundraisers, sporting events, grand openings, whatever you want. Team EPI has an extremely talented staff of designers and show producers that develop extraordinary events fueled by the visions of their clients. You can reach them at their Tampa headquarters at 813-621-4700 or go to extravaganzaproductions.com.
Let's go! Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show here on a Thursday. Got about 4 or 5 minutes left here in the show. I'm glad I went to Twitter so I could see this story because the Oakland A's have announced today on their Twitter account that they are going to play their baseball games from 2025 to 2027 at Sutter Health Park in West Sacramento ahead of their move to Vegas in 2028. So it looks like this is going to be the final season that the A's are playing, not just at Oakland, but in the Coliseum as well. That is the AAA ballpark, by the way, for the A's, I believe. So there you go. Yeah, this whole situation just, it really irks me of what has happened to the Oakland A's, the downfall, if that's a strong enough word. It's like, I feel like as Rays fans, like we see all the stuff that goes on with the stadium all the time and the ownership and everything, and we feel like some people think they have it bad and everything, and of course we all feel like it could be better. But the way the A's have been treated by John Fisher for years, and the way that they have just been thrown aside, essentially. Like, you don't matter. All this history we have in Oakland, we don't care. We're moving to Las Vegas. And the fact that this situation has gotten this far out of hand where the Oakland A's are paying nobody on their entire roster. Nobody. And even the shenanigans that went on after the opening weekend, they sent down what is probably their best player in their lineup, Estuary Diaz, 25-year-old outfielder. I think he swiped like 60 bags or something like that last year. He hit over 400 in the opening series, and then he was sent down to AAA for God knows what reason, other than the fact that the Oakland A's are this is openly tanking. And I don't understand why Rob Manfred and MLB and the A's and John Fisher, how this situation has gotten this far out of hand. They're playing in front of like 2,000 people a night. There's nobody worth a damn going to see. And the fans are all chanting, sell the team. They're playing in a dump that they've invested nothing into. And this is what's going on in Major League Baseball now. And now we got a team that's going to have to play in a AAA park for the next 3 seasons in Sacramento. Are they the Sacramento A's now? I have no idea. But this situation, how it became so untenable, and what's so sad about it is it's probably going to go on to be the last defining moment of this franchise. Obviously in Oakland, was 5 years ago when they played the Rays in that wild card series, and they put 55,000 people in the Coliseum for a wild card game against the Rays. And remember how the environment was probably the best one that you would have seen in baseball all season long. And the players they had, from Matt Olson to Marcus Simeon to Matt Chapman, all these really, really good players, Sean Murphy, and they blew it all up. They blew it all up completely, and now they're just openly tanking in front of your face. They're leaving Oakland, but yeah, that's the news. They're going to be playing in Sacramento in a AAA ballpark for the next 3 seasons. So that situation just sucks. I feel so much for A's fans. This is one of the historic franchises in Major League Baseball, and just ownership, baseball, whatever you want to call it, has ruined it all for everybody. So there's the news. All right, we'll end on that. We're out of time today. Thank you so much for joining us. You missed the top half of the show. Again, JP joined me for the first hour, going over the Lightning, Rays, the Randy Gregory signing, and I took it home here for the last hour. So JP will be back on tomorrow, I believe, for the first hour with Tim, and I will see y'all on Monday. Have a great day in beautiful Tampa Bay.